Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our conversations with Jess. Like I said, I don't have a name for this conversation series quite yet. Some things are floating around in my brain, but for now, we're going to do conversations with Jess. And I'm so happy to have Jay Minash here with us. He is with EDE, and we're going to be talking all things trade show. So just a quick reminder in this conversation series, it's really for folks in the event planning world, hospitality, to really help deepen their event strategy and getting support from folks maybe outside of their purview or just hearing different areas of events, planning, all those things, and providing the people like Jay and resources to bring those conversations forward and maybe widening your planning process. So Jay, thanks so much for being here. I feel like I need like emoji clap noises.
You'll work that in from the studio audience in the future.
I do. I need a studio audience live. But thanks for being here. So I found you through LinkedIn, which, many folks are connecting on LinkedIn, finding resources, things like that. And I was so happy to have this conversation with you because trade show is an area that I lack in understanding and knowledge. And talking to you in our pre-meeting, you just have so much knowledge about trade show and best practices and everything under the sun with trade show. So can you give our folks listening a little bit more about your background, how you got into the industry, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I've been in the trade show industry for 19 years, and like I would say 95% of the people in the trade show industry, I fell into it not knowing even what it was. I saw a job application on monster.com for a company named Skyline. I was like, oh, trade shows. Yeah, that's how long I've been doing this. Monster was where I found my job. I was like, trade shows, that sounds interesting. I wonder what that is. After I interviewed for the job, I went to my first ever trade show. And it kind of like, it just blew my mind. And honestly, 19 years later, they still continue to blow my mind. I'm one of the few people out there that like, I just love trade shows. It makes me happy just being at them.
So can I put you in the extrovert category?
Mostly yes, but I also drain my battery when I go to these events and I need like a couple days. Like, can nobody talk to me? Which, with two kids under 10, that's not possible. There's lots of talking at home, but I get to be a little bit more quiet because everybody in my family talks a lot.
Well, hey, we all just need our Zen moments, even when you're at the event. I love that planners are putting more like meditation rooms and just like spaces to just kind of zone yourself out so you can go back out and be full battery.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So talking about events, planning, all those good things that we do before the event even starts, we talked a little bit about, well, before our call, about how to help planners maybe focus on outcomes a little bit more, whether that's pre-planning, planning in the booth, or even post-event, like all the processes that you help a client through. Can you talk a little bit about that, how to focus on those outcomes or maybe even find what those outcomes are? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so trade shows are typically a sales-driven event, even though they're led by a marketing team or an events team. So understanding what that objective is and how it ladders up into the bigger organization is so important. Most of the time it's like generating leads or, generating meetings, but it's understanding what you're trying to get out of that is really the key. Because if you show up and it's like, all right, well, we want to scan leads, it's like, all right, well, how are you driving them to your space? Because yeah, they may know you're there, but in most cases, people already know who they're going to see before they get to the show floor. So if you're in a smaller space and you don't have a good location, you need to give them a reason to stop by. So it all starts with that pre-show plan and, starting to contact, depending on the size of the show, maybe even as much as 6 weeks out, giving them a reason to see you. And, most people go to shows for one of three reasons. You're either going there for education, networking, or to see what's new or next. So give them one of those reasons to stop by and you're already getting a step ahead.
I love the three kind of pillars or categories that you listed out because that's totally why I go. It's to like see what's new, what's happening, especially in the events industry. It's fun to see like you finally actually get to experience an event with your industry mates and you get to see what they're doing and how you can bring it into your world and the events that you're doing. What are some challenges that you see with the pre-planning or even thinking about like, okay, which pillar do we want to fall under? Do we want to do education? Do we want to do something innovative? Like, how do you work with clients to even, make that happen within the booth?
Yeah, so a lot of the times they already know. If you don't have a new product to talk about, it's obvious you're not going to do what's new or next. You might be able to talk about some future ideas that are in the product roadmap for your company, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be networking is going to be a part of it no matter what. So it's always going to be trying to generate meetings. I think that the biggest challenge most event people have is resources. Having people focus their energy on generating meetings and generating traffic to your booth is so hard to get them to just focus on even for 6 weeks. That's not going to be what their entire focus is, but tapping into the sales team, whether there's like sale SDRs or BDRs that you can use to honestly just pound the pavement, emails, phone calls, social posts, different things like that to generate that traffic up front. The pre-show is such an important aspect that so often gets overlooked. I even work for companies like where I have exhibited at the trade show, and I'm like, all right, what's our plan? Like, well, we don't have a plan. It's like, but this is what we do for a living, and it's like insulting. So yeah, no, and I say that as much as I focus on the pre-show efforts, it's really all of it. But getting those resources up front, it's like if you don't take the runway to set yourself up, the rest of it almost not that it doesn't matter, but it's going to be that much harder.
No, that's so fair. It's like you bring that conversation piece up. It's like, okay, well, what are we doing? And then everyone just kind of looks at each other.
Yeah.
It's that moment of like, oh yeah, we should probably, think a little bit more, be more intentional. I think that's a great word of my 2024 is like, how can we be intentional building out what our outcomes and tying it back to something, right? Because like,
Mhm.
yeah, we want leads, but like not every lead is the same.
Right.
Right. So that's hard. Like sometimes I get emails about events and saying like we're in booth 284 and I'm like staying at home, like that's a missed opportunity, I'm sure, in
Yeah.
some
Well, a
cases.
lot of people will, it's like, oh, come to this booth. And it's like, but why? Like, tell them why they should be there. It's not just enough that you're there. It's like, great, you're there. Like, so is 375 other exhibitors. But yeah, giving them, it's that, what's the intentional reason they should come to your booth? And I think that's a very missed opportunity in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and that brings up another great piece, of like, I don't know, it we get siloed when we work, right? So like there's marketing and then there's sales and then there's planning and then there's the agencies that we work with. And it's
Mhm.
like who can, from a planning side, who can take the charge and have those conversations and make sure, because it's very easy for a planner to just get really focused on like logistics and operations and timing and everything like that. So it's like, how can and not that we have an answer right now, but like thinking past like the operations of things and how can we build out and know that, okay, our marketing team has what they need, our agency team has what they need, to make it feel a little bit more collaborative.
Yeah,
That's
I would say just like the event planner in this case is you're the maestro. You're conducting the traffic. You're figuring out you're making sure that everybody is touching. Like basically, you should make a checklist for all these different teams. Like, hey, can you just do these 6 things? And if you break it down easily for them, they're much more likely to do it. But yeah, you have to think of yourself as the maestro, and pointing everybody where they need to go and when they need to play their tune.
yeah, the conductor. I love that. Um, And okay, cool. So I love talking about that. And we even before this conversation started, we were talking about like a industry friend. She posted a photo online. It was like a meme of, how much you spent on the booth and the sponsorship costs and all of that and paying to have people at the booth and somebody's just sitting on their phone. And I can remember, I mean, it happens. But do you have any recommendation on, especially like the innovative side, how you can get folks up and moving in a booth or just have it be high engagement, high touch?
So I think who you choose to staff the booth is huge. I mean, it's also important, right? I'm going to say that a million times during this conversation, but yeah, who you have staff the booth matters. And just because you're a good salesperson doesn't mean you're great at a trade show. It's a very different skill set because you're basically standing on a sidewalk and be like, oh, hey, buddy, can you come into my booth? Let me talk to you about this thing. And not all salespeople want to initiate that conversation. And most of the times it's as easy as like, I made eye contact, I smiled, I said something nice, or I complimented you. It's like, hey, do you fit our ideal profile? Like, and you would never say that, but it's like, just ask them a couple quick questions. It could take 15 seconds, and they either come in your booth or have that conversation, or they move on. And it's making sure that you have someone that's excited to be there. Because the last thing you want is someone that, exactly to the point of that post, was like a salesperson sitting in the back of the booth, slumped down or eating their lunch. And it's like, yes, everybody needs to eat. I know I'm not a monster, but it's like, be excited to be there. Try to at least figure out, if you have a smaller space, at least two people to be there so they could take shifts and like be in and out of the booth. But yeah, you got to have the conversations ahead of time, and basically train your staff on like, please don't do these things. These are the things. Like, I understand we all have to check emails, but it's like, for this 3 hour stretch or however many hours it is, can you just like limit it to like the absolute minimum so you're focused on this investment that we've made on this space?
Right. And I think that's totally fair to set expectations,
Mhm.
um, and have those pre-conversations of like, I even do this when I'm training for events. And like, if you have volunteers or maybe team members who are outside of events and they come in, you just do those trainings to be like, okay, this is a yes thing, right? This is a green check mark. And this is like a big red X, no. And it's not because, of any other thing, except we want to have a good brand image, moving forward.
Exactly. And it all speaks to your brand. You're always representing your brand. So if they see you and they get this bad taste in their mouth from something you did or you said or ignored somebody, you just killed an opportunity for somebody else in your company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to look at that. Um, like from maybe, I don't know, the past 2 years, because I feel like anything past like COVID was just a hard moment in life. But recently, have you noticed any really cool ways to interact in the booth? Or, like on the innovative side, like ways to engage with people in the booth? I know that I've joined some trade shows lately, and there's like cool little coffee makers, and like you're standing in line waiting for coffee, and the latte foam is the image of the logo of the company or something. Yeah, have you seen anything cool like that lately?
Oh, I mean, I see cool things all the time. So my cool is relative to, we work with a company, Monster Energy. So their level of cool is not what anybody else can do for the
Okay.
most part.
Okay.
But I think, if you think about it differently versus cool versus how you engage with people, it's like, sometimes you think about the different personalities you're going to really be interacting with. Some people don't want to talk to anybody at all, but they are curious. So it's like, can you create a self-service area of the booth where it's like, hey, I just want to check out this demo of or this product. I don't need to talk to anybody, but if I have questions, like, I want someone there. And then there's the other people where it's like, show me everything. I want you to tell me everything you've ever thought of in your life, and I want your whole life story to go with
That's
it.
me.
Yeah, same. Actually, it's funny. I think we talked about it before, but it's like, I'm an extrovert, but it's like, yeah, sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody at all. So, but yeah, it's more thinking about it that way. It's not necessarily like the coolest way to show the tech. I am a big believer. It's like, if you typically do a demo over the computer like this, please don't do the same demo when you're in person. Let's get rid of the PowerPoints. Let's get rid of the standard demo. Do something that is unique and hands-on and interactive. I think that's the key. And it doesn't need to be high tech. I've seen some of my favorite demos at shows have been based on Legos. And, I think it's thinking about like, how can you get people to do something different, to be that hands-on interaction is really the key for me.
Yeah. I know that you mentioned that clients usually come with an idea of what they want, but if a client doesn't like have that creativity, do you also work with them on these ideas?
Oh, absolutely. That is where we really shine. So we have a couple clients in the warehouse automation space, which, doesn't sound very exciting. And they have these big giant machines that sort packages and sort mail. And, a few years ago, we convinced them not to bring any of their machines to the show. It's like, let us tell people how your stuff works through a different kind of experience. So, their robots find the most efficient path from the warehouse to the front to deliver their package. So it's like we came up with the shell game. And if you got it right, it took the prize, it put it in the box, and the robot found the most efficient path to get to the attendee to give them the prize. And then the following year we did something different where it's like, all right, they brought some of their machines, but it was like it showed the full turnkey of services all within this one box. And we had Wordle at the time, so we created a custom Wordle game for them. if you were in the industry, you were going to win every single time. And it would basically demonstrate, it's like, all right, you won. Now the robotic arm takes the thing off the shelf, puts it in the box, then it gets sorted to where the path it needs to go. It would bring it to somebody working, one of the staffers, and then you get the prize. So it's like we're still showing the full turnkey, but it's doing it in that sense a very high-tech way. One of my absolute favorites I touched on a second ago was this Lego demo, where it was an open source community tech, and they basically had a whiteboard that's like future planning, in progress, completed projects, and
Mhm.
they were building Lego cities out of the Lego bricks, and that's how they were showing how their tech works. It's like through that demonstration. It was super cool, and I think this was like 6 years ago, and I still tell people this story, so it was effective.
It does. It makes an impact, right? It goes back to what you were talking about with brand, like, and also which booth are you going to be more willing to go to as an
Mhm.
attendee? One that like has a drone give you a package, or like
Yeah.
pencil. I don't know. And of course, speaking to everyone's budgets, it's very different, but that's just such a fun way to showcase on like a human to human level what the product is, or um, the outcomes that you can get going in that direction. That's super cool. So then the next conversation leads very well into this. It's, building trust with your clients. How do you like to do that? Because trade shows are definitely annual events. And so as soon as you're done with one, you're probably on to the next, and planning.
Mhm.
So how do you like to work through that, the trust with clients to make sure that you're showcasing their work in the best way possible?
It's always communication, just being as transparent throughout the process, laying out, hey, this is how we work, this is how often we're going to talk, this is the planning sessions, even if it's someone who we're not working with. This is a prospect for our company specifically. It's like, hey, we're going to start the design, and it's due in 2 weeks, but in a week, can we just touch base and show you what we started, make sure we're on the right track? And it's like, it's every little touch point is really helpful for building that trust. And Ernie, it's like, hey, I'm telling you what we're doing, and then I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you what we did. And it's all about the follow through and just communicating every step of the way. But it's that fine line. You don't want to over communicate, and it's like, oh, that person's kind of annoying. I love the open dialogue, but I got a job to do. So, everything's a fine line.
It's true. And if you use Slack or Teams or something, I've loved like the automation within Slack, and just like reminding myself to send messages, and then also like sending out messages to folks within Slack, reminding them of things. So yeah, I love the communication piece, and not a lot of folks are willing to go that extra step. I don't know if there is such thing as, a negative over communication. It's like, I think
Yeah.
everyone's communication. But yeah, I get it. It's like you have to like tailor that to the client, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and the reality is, too much communication. It's like if you're asking too many questions, eventually it's like you're the expert. Like make a decision. You can't ask me for every step of it. Otherwise, it's like, well, what do I need you for?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. So who would you say that you enjoy working with the most, like on the client side, or what companies you
They're all my favorite children. I cannot choose a favorite.
but like industry, do you work within a specific industry, or is it pretty open?
Yeah, so well, that part's easy. So we have a bunch of clients in the food and beverage space, and there's one show called National Association of Convenience Stores. And if you walk into a convenience store, think of any product you could possibly buy off the shelf. They all exhibit at this trade show.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
why.
candy, fruit, nuts, jerky, energy drinks, literally like anything you could think of. And
Fascinating.
yes, yeah, it's a good time.
That's so cool. It's like, yeah, walking into a 7-Eleven. Yeah,
Exactly.
a product within a 7-Eleven. That's wild.
And I
Um,
will throw in there that this year, one of my childhood heroes when I was like 6 to I'll say 10, Hulk Hogan, and he was at the show this year. So like I don't wait in line to meet people very often, but like I stop my colleague, I'm like, we are meeting Hulk Hogan. I don't care how long I have to stand here for.
that's like a flashback name that you really haven't seen much, is Hulk Hogan.
No, no, I think he had to disappear for a little bit because of maybe some of the things he said or did.
Yeah, probably. Because like in my mind of Hulk Hogan, I wasn't really like a huge wrestling person, but I think he had a reality TV show.
Hmm.
Mistaken.
And that's what got him in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're on the same page
Not
there.
surprisingly. Yeah.
Yeah. You win some, you lose some. Well, that's so fun. I know that this isn't a question that I put in our notes, but are there any like 2024 or 2025 things that you're seeing within trade show world that you just want to make mention of, or up and coming things, just predicts, I guess, like predictions for
Yeah.
2024?
Yeah, I was actually reading about this yesterday, and I think inclusivity is a huge push in events in general, not just trade shows specifically, but it's, neurodiversity is at the forefront of thinking like, how do you make people comfortable no matter what they want? Similar, I guess, the conversation we were having before about like, how do you show off your products? It's like figuring out how to make as many people comfortable as possible. You're obviously not going to make 100% of the world comfortable all the time, but to do your best to try, showing that effort, I think that is going to be a huge step. And on top of, inclusivity, I think I really hope sustainability starts to be more at the forefront, because our industry is extremely wasteful. And, I know we, as an industry, we've done a lot better in a lot of ways, but there's, I mean, miles and miles to go.
Yes, great call outs. Yeah, inclusivity and sustainability. Love it. Well, thanks so much for joining the conversation. How can folks get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is always the best way. I post on there all the time. I'm pretty much always looking at it when I have a spare minute. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to find me.
Great. And we'll share, or I will share Jay's LinkedIn here, and would drop it in the comments, so y'all can go and follow him or send him a quick message to connect. So
Open to
thanks.
talk to everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Thanks, Jay, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.